On July 13, 2024, 5:10 p.m., a mother's trembling fingers find her phone screen as gunfire shreds the air around her vehicle. Her 5-year-old son is strapped in the back. Her boyfriend slumps in the passenger seat. Blood is everywhere. She types 4 letters. She hits send. Jocko. 1 word, 1 name. It was her final defiant act, the clue that would later secure the case. But to uncover the truth of this violence, we must first understand the devastating journey that led them here. Welcome back to Real True Crime 24/7. This story is one of unimaginable loss, but also of incredible strength. We honor the families affected, and we pray for the safety of our viewers and their loved ones always. If you are new here, please subscribe, like, and share. We commit to bringing you the facts and the critical details that often go unreported by other channels. Now, let's begin. Today we are going to report on a triple murder that shook the city of Birmingham. A 28-year-old hairstylist, a 5-year-old about to start kindergarten, a 28-year-old boyfriend, all dead inside a bullet-riddled Nissan Maxima. The ground was littered with 20 to 30 shell casings. This was an execution, not a spontaneous act. The car did not crash from the impact. Someone was still conscious enough to try to drive to safety. Surveillance cameras captured everything. A lime green Kia Soul. 2 minutes, 1 massacre. But here is the devastating twist. They had text messages showing a planned meetup. The victim knew her killer. She managed to call his name as she died. And this wasn't just any weekend in Birmingham. This was one of the city's most violent 24-hour periods in modern history. 7 people dead, 10 wounded across 2 separate shootings. The question isn't just who pulled the trigger. The critical piece is, why did a mother, her child, and her partner become targets on a Saturday afternoon? Stay with us until the end to find out. Before the violence, there was Arkia. Arkia Kia Berry was a 28-year-old licensed cosmetologist, a fixture in Birmingham's beauty community, known for her commitment to her craft. But Arkia carried a profound strength forged by previous tragedy. Her son, Landon's biological father, Ladarius Brooks, had been murdered in 2020. The case went unsolved, leaving Arkia to rebuild her life, raising Landon alone for 4 years. Her cousin Anya remembers Kia and Landon as 2 peas in a pod. Arkia made sure Landon had everything he needed. She was determined to give him the secure life he deserved, taking him to football practice and planning his start in kindergarten that fall. Landon Brooks was 5 years old, obsessed with Spider-Man, and wore jersey number 3 for the Wahuma 5U team. Long Live number 3 would become the cry of a heartbroken community. His coach, Keldrick Marsh, saw Landon less than 2 hours before the attack. His grandmother, Tammy Brooks, had already endured burying her son. Now, the unimaginable, she would face burying her grandson. Arkia recently welcomed Eric Ashley Jr., 28, into their lives. Eric, who had his own challenges reflected in limited public records, was attempting to be a positive father figure for Landon. Crucially, Eric had 2 contacts in his phone saved as Jocko and Jack. On that Saturday afternoon in summer 2024, Landon had just finished practice. Arkia drove the Nissan. Eric sat beside her. The plan was simple. Meet a contact near Echo Highlands Park, a quiet neighborhood. They drove toward that meeting, unaware that a lime green Kia Soul was already parked and waiting for them. The individual they were driving to meet was Jacorian Deshaun McGregor, 25, known by the handle Jocko. Public records show McGregor was already on probation following felony charges for robbery. His history was volatile. McGregor and Eric Ashley communicated throughout July 13th via text messages. The communications confirmed they were arranging a physical meetup. The exact nature of their connection, friends, associates, or something else, remains concealed by the prosecution. What authorities did find in McGregor's recovered phone records was immediately concerning. Messages from his friends instructing him to lay low, stay out of sight, stay hidden in the wake of the shooting. A witness would later solidify this digital evidence, telling police that McGregor had made a chilling admission. He had shot. But the planning began days earlier. A lime green Kia Soul was reported stolen in Birmingham. This wasn't a random vehicle choice. It was allegedly secured as the getaway car. Hours after the victims crashed, that same Kia was found, engulfed in flames, a calculated effort to eradicate all forensic evidence. Security camera footage, however, is immune to fire. McGregor knew them. He was trusted enough by Eric to set up a meeting, and known well enough by Arkia for her to name him in her final moment. They drove to the designated spot, and when they arrived, something went terribly wrong. McGregor, the man they thought they were meeting, allegedly set a violent course that afternoon, making a decision that would not just destroy a relationship, but extinguish 3 lives. The collision course was set by a fragile web of connections. Eric Ashley had 2 contacts for Jacorian McGregor, Jacko and Jack. We know Eric searched McGregor's Facebook profile just before the murders. Arkia also knew the nickname Jacko, a fact that would prove crucial. Phone records show McGregor's number was shared between the victims. But what did this connection truly mean? Were they friends, rivals, or were the men involved in business the women knew nothing about? The prosecution has not revealed a motive, and to this day, the complete why remains sealed. The warning signs, however, were present in the digital silence. McGregor, already on probation for robbery, had a documented history of violence. The stolen lime green Kia Soul, taken days before the attack, confirmed that this was a planned, deliberate setup. Throughout July 13th, the texts continued between Eric and McGregor. "Let's meet up." Arkia and her family had no reason to suspect danger. Landon was only focused on football, happy to be with his mother and Eric. They walked directly into the arrangement, unaware that the stage had been meticulously prepared for a bloodbath. The attack occurred against a backdrop of intensifying urban violence. In early July 2024, Birmingham was experiencing a devastating year, tracking to break a 91-year-old homicide record. Arkia, acutely aware of the risk, posted an eerie message online about mothers suddenly dying. The week before the murder, the stolen Kia Soul became the engine of the plot. McGregor and Ashley exchanged final messages. Plans were confirmed. The day of the tragedy began normally. Landon was at football practice. His coach saw him full of energy, only hours before the attack. Arkia finished work. Eric confirmed the meetup time. 5:07 p.m. Surveillance captures the lime green Kia Soul pulling into the Echo Highlands neighborhood. It stops. It waits. 5:08 p.m. Arkia drives her Nissan Maxima into the area. They are laughing, unsuspecting. 5:09 p.m. Gunfire erupts. Not an argument, not a warning shot. Between 20 and 30 bullets tear through the metal. In that instant of chaos, 2 desperate acts occur. Eric's phone calls McGregor's number, an unanswered connection. Simultaneously, Arkia's trembling finger types the single word, Jacko. The message is sent. Arkia fights to save them, her foot flooring the accelerator, injured and bleeding, trying to drive to safety. The car lurches forward. 5:10 p.m. The Nissan crashes into a front yard. The lime green Kia Soul speeds away. Inside the Nissan, Arkia collapses, her body lying across the center console, a final visceral attempt to shield her son. The electronic emergency system makes the call to 911. At 5:20 p.m., dispatch received the first call. It came in as a routine traffic accident on Indian Summer Drive, likely generated by the car's automated crash detection system. East Precinct officers arrived expecting a simple fender bender. What they found instead redefined horror. Resting against a curb in a residential front yard was the blue Nissan Maxima, its exterior shredded by multiple gunshots. Shell casings littered the lawn. Inside were 3 victims. Officer Truman Fitzgerald saw what no officer ever wants to see. Arkia Berry, 28, was slumped across the center console, her body riddled with wounds. Eric Ashley Jr., 28, was dead in the passenger seat, and in the back seat, still in his football jersey, was 5-year-old Landon Brooks. Forensic teams recovered 20 to 30 casings. This was not a shootout or a warning shot. This was a targeted execution meant to eliminate everyone inside. The shock rippled through the neighborhood, initially leaving detectives with no witnesses. But this triple homicide did not happen in isolation. That same night, just hours later, a mass shooting erupted at a Birmingham nightclub. In total, 7 people died and 10 were injured across Birmingham in less than 24 hours. The mayor, Randall Woodfin, held an emergency press conference describing the gun violence as an epidemic. Police Chief Scott Thurmond asked a devastating question. Any time we have a homicide, it affects us. But when you have a child, it affects you differently. We have to ask, when is enough going to be enough? The phones of the victims quickly provided the investigative lifeline. Detectives secured Arkia's device and saw the text sent at 5:09 p.m. The single word, Jocko. At that same fatal minute, Eric's phone showed a call initiated to a contact also saved as Jocko. This was definitive confirmation. The victims knew their killer, and Arkia's last breath was used to name him. Digital surveillance became a goldmine. Home security cameras captured the entire meticulous setup. At 5:07 p.m., the lime green Kia Soul entered the neighborhood. At 5:08 p.m., the Nissan Maxima arrived, and at 5:10 p.m., the Kia Soul was seen speeding away. No other vehicles. This sequence confirms the attack was planned and targeted with devastating precision. Within 24 hours, the Kia Soul was located, but it was already completely engulfed in flames, a deliberate but ultimately futile attempt to incinerate forensic evidence. The visual evidence and the timeline, however, already pointed a damning finger at a known individual. The human cost of the crime was now fully exposed. Family members arrived at the scene. Tammy Brooks, Landon's grandmother, collapsed upon learning the news. She had already suffered the murder of her son in 2020. Now she faced burying her grandson. Arkia's cousin, Anya, was inconsolable, stating simply, she loved her baby so much.
Of them, and for them to ask for forgiveness and, turn themselves in.
The entire community was left traumatized by the execution of a 5-year-old in broad daylight. 7 long months after Arkia's final text, the waiting ended. On February 24, 2025, law enforcement moved. A specialized team, the U.S. Marshals Service Fugitive Task Force, Birmingham Police's Crime Reduction Team, and state parole officers located Jacorian McGregor on Freda Lane. As officers closed in, McGregor instantly recognized the danger. He slammed the accelerator, striking a law enforcement vehicle before bailing out and attempting to escape on foot. The flight was short-lived. He was swiftly tackled and arrested. In his vehicle, police found a stolen 9mm handgun. Jacorian McGregor, 25, was formally charged with capital murder for the deaths of 2 or more persons, a charge making him eligible for the death penalty. The case against him was finally made public on April 17, 2025, at the preliminary hearing before Jefferson County District Judge William Bell. Birmingham homicide detective Jarvelius Tolliver presented the digital reconstruction of the crime. The evidence was a chilling sequence, the texts arranging the meetup, the surveillance showing the Kia's arrival and escape, McGregor's deleted messages, and the damning admission he made to a witness. But the centerpiece remained Arkia's final 4-letter text. McGregor's defense attorney challenged the evidence, arguing the case was purely circumstantial, claiming a text message could not prove the shooter's identity. But Detective Tolliver countered immediately, stating that Miss Berry was a witness. She texted his name right before she died. Judge Bell agreed. He ruled that sufficient probable cause existed, ordered McGregor held without bond, and sent the case to the grand jury. An arrest brings relief, but it leaves behind agonizing questions. The prosecution has yet to reveal the motive. Why did a planned meeting escalate to the execution of a mother, her son, and her partner? Was it a drug dispute, revenge, or a robbery? Surveillance footage hints that McGregor may not have acted alone. If not, who else was in that lime green Kia? Justice in Alabama is slow. McGregor now sits in jail. The capital murder case will stretch on for years. With the arrest made, the community was left to contend with the aftermath. Tammy Brooks, Landon's grandmother, now carries a burden too heavy to comprehend. She visits two graves, that of her son, murdered in 2020, and her 5-year-old grandson, both killed by gun violence. Arkia's cousin, Ania Berry, faces the impossible task of explaining to her own children why their cousin Landon will never come home for family gatherings. The Wahuma 5U football team retired Landon's jersey, number 3, a symbol that now stands for a life stolen too soon. Meanwhile, Eric Ashley Jr.'s family mourned quietly, remembering him as a man striving to be a part of their lives, cut down by a confrontation not meant for him. This horrific event became a flashpoint for Birmingham's larger crisis. The city ended 2024 having broken a 91-year-old record with 160 homicides. Mayor Woodfin publicly pleaded for assistance, acknowledging the city's urgent need for resources to address gun violence. The lethality of these crimes, as Officer Fitzgerald noted, is often tied to the illegal use of devices like the Glock switch, transforming handguns into instruments of mass destruction. The vigil held at Railroad Park on July 24th swelled into more than just a memorial for Arkia and Landon. It became a profound plea for peace, attended by families of other victims, all sharing the same desperate message. Birmingham is bleeding, and it is the innocent, the vulnerable, like 5-year-old Landon, who continue to pay the price. Ultimately, this case is defined by an act of sheer courage. Arkia Berry's final text became the saving grace. Without that single word, McGregor might still be free. Her last act of defiance ensured that justice would be served, echoing the tragic bravery of other victims throughout history who, with their final breaths, named their attackers. This investigation proved that digital evidence, surveillance, text logs, and phone records is now everything. The case was meticulously solved by technology, combined with a dying mother's fortitude. Yet the questions linger. The motive remains officially concealed, leaving the chilling possibility that 3 lives were extinguished for a reason so senseless it defies all understanding. The legal process worked, but the 7-month wait for an arrest highlighted the immense strain on Birmingham's police force. We honor Arkia Berry, a devoted mother, a working hairstylist, and a survivor who was simply trying to rebuild her life after previous loss. We remember Landon Brooks, a bright, smiling 5-year-old who belonged on the football field, not a headstone. And we remember Eric Ashley Jr., a man who deserved the second chance he was striving for. Their lives were more than a news statistic, and thanks to Arkia, their story led to accountability. On July 13, 2024, in a quiet neighborhood in Birmingham, Alabama, a mother used her final, precious moments not to scream, not to beg, but to make sure her alleged killer would be caught. 4 letters, 1 name. Jaco. Jacorian McGregor now sits in Jefferson County Jail awaiting his capital murder trial. The judicial process moves forward, but the profound wounds left on the Berry and Brooks families will never fully heal. Tammy Brooks visits 2 graves now. Arkia's loved ones still weep for their cousin, little Landon, and Birmingham continues its struggle against the violence that stole 160 lives in 2024 alone. If you have any information about this case or any unsolved crimes in your area, please reach out to your local police or Crime Stoppers. Sometimes, like Arkia, you might hold the key that finally unlocks justice. What are your thoughts on this case? Was the violence personal? Do you believe McGregor was working alone? Drop your insights in the comments below. And if this story affected you, please share it, because Arkia, Landon, and Eric deserve to be remembered as more than just statistics. Be sure to subscribe to Real True Crime 24/7. Next week we're covering another case the media buried. Until then, stay safe, stay vigilant, and remember, malice often hides in plain sight. Rest in peace, Arkia Berry. Rest in peace, Landon Brooks. Rest in peace, Eric Ashley Jr.